Alright, welcome back to another Art of War 3 replay. I'm your host, John Cena, and today we're going to be doing a 2v2 battle here. I'm going to be the green Confederate player, and my ally, Vinith, is going to be the blue Confederate player. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to be facing off against two Resistance players from the same clan, so let's go ahead and see how this plays out. We got some infrastructure coming down on my end as I continue to tech up toward HQ3. Well, we can see that Red's got a shipyard down with a Cayman, but a little bit slow on the development, and Vinith is able to put on some early pressure with those deltas while we secure the large resource container. So it looks like one of those deltas does get cleaned up, but the deltas are putting some good damage onto that shipyard. And looks like we got some infantry coming in for the red player, just trying to secure their side of the map. Meanwhile, I'm getting some more supply centers down. My original plan for this battle was to go for naval build, but Vinith gets a scout onto the yellow player. We can see yellow has a ton of barracks and is just pumping out mass grenadiers. They're already HQ4, and they got a very strong economy going. So I'm actually going to need to shift my entire strategy. It looks like neither red or yellow is going for any kind of naval build. So my plan now is to crank out as many fire assaults and cyclones as possible. We can see yellow's now starting to move troops across the map here. We got a gold production boost going just so I can get as many fire assaults and cyclones out. And we can see now some early aggression happening here. I've got a Viking out on the battlefield along with some deltas. And this is forcing red to try and defend their side of the map. Meanwhile, yellow is continuing to amass a ton of infantry close to my base. My Vikings and deltas in the mix there just continue to dish out good damage against the infantry. They're slowly losing hit points, but I'm okay with that. Meanwhile, two fire assaults here. They're going to get cleaned up by the mass infantry there. Now I'm going to go ahead and move my forces in. We've got cyclones and fire assaults in mass. Let's see how this plays out. And the fire assaults are just absolutely tearing through the infantry, and the cyclones are also tearing through the infantry as well. But we can see there's so many infantry on this attack. This is absolutely ridiculous. Meanwhile, Vinith is streaming forces onto the red player's base. My fire assaults are getting cleaned up. There is just way too many infantry for the fire assaults to survive. However, I've got the cyclones in the mix as well, and the cyclones are doing a great job against these infantry. Grenadiers are unable to shoot at aerial units, so cyclones are working out nicely here. So last little bits of infantry getting cleaned up here by my forces, no problem. And at this point, Vinith tells me contract. We have a feeling that we should be able to beat these two players pretty handily. Not particularly concerned about how this battle pans out. We can see that not really using too many boosts here, kind of using boosts here and there. We can see yellow has teched up to HQ5 and has a ton of infrastructure down and is continuing to just pump out as much infantry as possible. Vinith is meanwhile just continuing to gradually develop their base. Looks like we're checking in on each other about contracts, and neither of us have enough contracts to get done, I believe. So right now, looks like since yellow is going to keep building mass infantry, I'm just going to keep building a counter for it. So Vinith now moving in with Zeus tanks and fire assaults onto the red player's base. We can see that red is still HQ2. We're already basically 15 minutes into the game, and red is struggling. Looks like red's got 3 assault vehicle factories, some supply centers, some infantry, couple helicopters. This is not an optimal build at all. These fire assaults are just ripping apart the infantry. Meanwhile, yellow is trying the exact same strategy again. Looks like there are some riflemen and snipers mixed in with the grenadiers, so maybe yellow is going to try and counter my fire assaults with the snipers. So looks like Vinith's attack is actually getting cleaned up here. There's only a couple units left in the mix, but that headquarters just gets leveled by the Thor. No problem at all for Vinith. Red is in huge trouble. And here comes the mass infantry Yellow trying once again with the spam. Let's see how this plays out. I got Fire Assault and Cyclones, and they are just ripping apart this army. And quite frankly, not really concerned at this point about how this attack kind of pans out. I know that it's pretty much a good game. We're just kind of experimenting around with the anti-infantry mix. So we can see that these snipers are just about cleaned up by my Cyclones and Fire Assaults. Vinith's just going to throw in some bombs there from a Thor just to add insult to injury. And we can see that Yellow's entire army gets shredded. Vinith, meanwhile, is just cleaning up this red player's base, and my Cyclones are continuing to just push the infantry back towards Yellow. Looks like Yellow is still spamming infantry. We see no assault vehicle factory, no special vehicle factories, no naval presence of any kind, just infantry. I would not recommend that build. I would actually recommend going for something a little more balanced, especially if your first attack does not pan out. So, Vinith just cleaning up the last little bits of Red's base there. My Cyclones are just continuing to eat up some of the infantry there. I'm going to go ahead and now move some Fire Assaults across the map, and I'm also going to try to go for some heroes, it looks like, just to experiment around with them. Again, we're not concerned about losing at this point. It's basically a 1v2. And we can see a handful of Fire Assaults here just shredding the infantry at the front of Yellow's base. And we can see that my Fire Assaults are going to be able to make it onto the plateau. There's only a couple of snipers there, and it's not going to be enough. So those last few snipers get cleaned up. And now we've made it to Yellow's base. So now my Cyclones are going to move in a little bit here. We can see that Red actually still has supply centers going with an emergency measures boost. Not sure why they haven't surrendered at this point. But we can see there's some anti-air towers coming down now. So I'm actually going to move my Cyclones in at this point, just so we can take care of these anti-air towers. So we're playing a little bit of whack-a-mole here, where the Cyclones are just trying to take out the anti-air towers as they come up. We can see Yellow desperately trying to drop down anti-air towers to defend against my assault here, but it's really not going to pan out for the Yellow player, unfortunately. So after we clean up these anti-air towers, it's pretty much the end of the game. At this point, Yellow kind of figures out that this is a meaningless battle to continue with, and they're going to self-destruct their base. That's the end of the battle, pretty much. We will see you in the next one. Hopefully you all enjoyed this entertaining battle.